Okay. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to the Science and Magic channel. I'm Amanda Helen, and this is my dear friend, my colleague, the client, Ayleen from Path Evolution Network. And also, she's a fellow CEO Boss Queen for those of you who are in Mina Irfan's program. So say hello in the chat. We're going to talk a bit today about feminine legacy. And ever since we've had this live stream planned, I've been really curious to think of what my feminine legacy is. And I'm actually hearing a little bit of sound background. Do you hear that, Ayleen?
I do hear it as well.
For me. Okay, that's funny. That was for me. That was my fault. But okay. So we're going to talk about legacy and legacy in probably an untraditional way, according to what we've the information we've been taking in as a society. And I've been reflecting a lot about it in preparation for this conversation. And I think it's such an interesting prompt, like what are we leaving behind? But before we get into that, I want to give Ayleen a chance to introduce herself. We'll start by who you are, and then I want you to share a bit about your career trajectory because you have such an extensive trajectory in your career path. But before we get there, like who's Ayleen? Feel free to share a bit about your upbringing, your background, where you're from.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Ayleen. Amanda, so lovely to see you again. I've loved all of our chats and sessions together, so I'm so happy to be in your energy again. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. So at a time when Brooklyn was a lot grittier than it is now. Now it's like this super, super trendy spot to be. So I got to see the evolution of Brooklyn as a city, as a town. And I like to say that I have grown up with alongside Brooklyn. So as Brooklyn has grown up, so have I. And I love that about where I come from. I have two wonderful parents who have loved me so dearly throughout my life, and I'm super grateful for them. I have this really interesting mix of parents. So like my mom is this very calm, cool, collected, elegant, classy lady that is just super innately wise. And then my dad, on the other hand, he is also very similar in a sense, but he has this fire within him. I mean, he's a Leo, so he's a fire sign. And I definitely see the fire in him every time I am around him and when we get together. So I have this blend of calm, cool depth, but then also this like firecracker. So I like to say I have best of both worlds. But yeah, I know we spoke a little bit about legacy, and to me, that's what the legacy that my parents have given to me. That's what I've inherited from them, like these characteristics that have made me who I am. Like they haven't left me behind tons of money or anything like that, but they have left me this like treasure trove of just really deep wisdom and love and compassion. So that's a little bit about me as a person.
Ayleen, already I love your words. Already, you know how I love how you use words. I'm a words person, so I'm really looking forward to exploring these concepts with you. Also, I want to point out too that you're also a dancer. I remember that we connected on that early on of our love for dancing as well, and how that is such an expression of feminine energy. And I think it teaches so much about the feminine form by letting it flow through your body.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that really attracted me to you and like working with you in general, because like you are a dancer and you know the mind body connection. So I remember one of our very first conversations that came up. So yeah, I do love dancing. It's one of my favorite things.
It's the best. And tell us about your trajectory in your career. And I know it's extensive, so you can, give a synopsis or any highlights or whatever information you want the audience to know about your resume.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Whenever someone looks at my LinkedIn or they talk to me about my career path, they're always just like, oh, wow, like you've done so many cool things and like you've done a lot. That's so cool. So my career trajectory started in high school. So when I was trying to figure out what to study in college, my mom studied psychology in college and my sister was choosing accounting at the time. She did switch later on, but so that's like the business world. So then I started figuring out I can combine the two with like marketing. There's like the psychological aspect of marketing, and then there's the business aspect of marketing, which all fits very nicely together. So that's where my career started, dabbling in the marketing side of real estate. I became a real estate agent. I don't know if you know that. I was
You know,
did that. And then through just tons of reflection, I was lost, I was scattered, I wasn't sure what to do with that marketing background. The only company that really like excited me when I was thinking about where I want to be after college was Google, because if you watch the movie The Internship, you know how they really sold the campus and all of that. And I loved it. It excited me, and it's what got me into the tech industry. So that was where I started doing marketing at Google. And then through that, decided I wanted to pick up my desire to learn to code. And so I did that, did a coding bootcamp in London, shipped myself overseas since I never studied abroad, and then became a software engineer. So that was my latest. Now I'm in this new part of my leg of my adventure where I am really just uncovering the business world with me as like the owner of it. So that's where we are. We'll see how the story unfolds.
and you really do specialize in this energy of transitions. And it isn't from a practical way, like this is the protocol I use. You've embodied it several times. You've been deep into a career. And if I know something about you, it's you put your heart and soul into what you do. So you put your heart and soul into your career, working for an employer, and then you're like, okay, I want something different. And then you go for it, and then you do it again. And so because you've embodied it so many times, you have this ability to guide others through it. And it's an energetic as well of like, okay, how do we know when something's not for us? And I actually just want to pose that. Like for me, okay, let me think. How do I know something's not for me? And if you're tuning in, how do you know that something's not for you? What does your body say? What goes through your mind? And I don't know, this is just kind of an impromptu question, but what do you feel in your body when you know it's time to change?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love this question because there's some very specific moments in my life where I just knew the change was coming. Period. It's like I just know the change is coming, and it's been some painful moments. I remember this one time I was at one college before I transferred to Baruch, and at some point I had an interaction with someone because I was trying to check out a book, and she was a little rude to me in her response. And then I remember going into the bathroom and I started crying, and I said to myself, I won't be here very long. I'm leaving. And so, and it happened like a few months later, like I left. So a lot of my transitions, or a lot of knowing something is not for me, is coming from sometimes these moments of pain, but then there's also these moments of desire, of like curiosity. Um, I'm no longer curious about what's happening here. I'm now setting my sights over there. So to me, it comes from one of those two things. That's the trigger.
I love that. It's almost like you hit a point where it's just like you've had enough and you're done. And then you change your energy from focusing on your current environment and you start giving everything towards this next goal or this next intention that you have. I also think there are times where I feel like change is in the air where it's not like a big pain point, but it's like a boredom.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I am no longer interested in this and I'm kind of bored, but I'm not sure what's next. And in
Yeah.
my body, I feel like maybe a lack of vibrancy in those moments of just like, okay, my environment's not giving me this vibrancy anymore. There's something not in alignment. And then there's little clues that the universe will put around me. And then I'm like, oh, I feel vibrant or I feel alive again at this
Mm.
clue. That's kind of what came to my mind when I was thinking about moments of transition in my life.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
vibrant.
I love that vibrancy. When you say that, I think of color. Like where you are now starts becoming kind of black and white, little dull, opaque, and then you see this pop of color and you follow that. That's what I envisioned while you were talking. That's pretty, yeah, I love that.
And look at all this color you've got in your world right now
Oh
with your
yeah.
light in the background. We both got our greens. I have all my books in the back. It's
Yes.
beautiful. So much color. So your work guides women into finding work that's deep and meaningful. That's what you share. Those are the words, deep and meaningful. And what does that look like? What does it look like to work in a way that is both of those things?
Mm, yeah. And from my perspective, something that feels deep and meaningful to me is something where I am unleashing or uncovering this part of myself that wants to be explored. So when it came to real estate, when I was doing real estate, I was watching, everyone probably has seen the show Million Dollar Listings. And I just loved how elegant and luxurious all the places that they showed on there was. And I wanted to explore that. Um, and to me, that was deep and meaningful because that's a layer within myself that wants to be expressed. Um, so when I think of deep and I think of meaningful, I think of who are you at your core and what wants to be expressed through you, and how can you align with something that exists in the world at this moment, um, or doesn't, but let's say something that exists, whether that's a company, whether that's a job title, whether that's a business model, and how can you align yourself with that thing to express who you are at your core. So how do you use what already exists in the world as a vehicle to bring forth just that core of, that little fire in your belly that's burning and wants to be let out?
So beautiful. I think that being able to work in this way, because think of how often, if you're someone who works, how many hours a day you spend doing that work. And so taking the time and the reflection and investing the resources needed to find that sort of alignment and spending as much energy as you need to set something up for yourself or reach out to the company that's in alignment with you, it pays off in dividends because
Mm,
then the hours that you put forth are just you having that satisfaction of expressing you in the world. There's not like a misalignment where, okay, I'm me, I'm like this at home, or I'm like this with my friends, or the deepest part of me wants to be seen in this way. And then I'm going to go to work and clock in and clock out of that version of me and not be seen. I mean, I feel like, and that do that for at least 8 hours a day, and then come home and recover from that. And you barely get to express the soul of you in the world. I mean, what's richer in life than to find that sort of alignment? So this work that you're doing, I think is so important. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to have you on my channel, because I am so passionate about heart aligned work, about finding work that's deep and meaningful, because not only is that good for each of us to do that, it's good for the world to
mm,
work with honey versus working with something bitter. So you're putting sweet, nourishing energy into the world. You're giving the world energy versus getting bitter because of what you're doing. I mean, I'm just
mm.
going on a rampage right now, but
Yeah.
I love that a description.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting too, because I mean, there are definitely moments where um you feel you are living in that misaligned state. Like I for sure can pinpoint several times throughout my career where I'm like, okay, I am in misalignment and it does not feel good. And you know that very clearly because something just doesn't feel right. Something's not working out. Things are not working out. Things are not feeling smooth. Things are no longer feeling exciting. So that happened to me actually recently while you and I were working together with the software engineering, where it's like when I beat you actually look for it.
It's amazing. Ayleen, I'm just seeing that. I hope that that was captured. It just said no data for a second. So if you're tuning in, can you please write in the chat that at least you can see us and hear us right now? Because no one's also said anything in the chat. So I just want to make
Okay.
sure that.
I
It
can
says
know.
excellent connection now, but for a second you were on this like beautiful, yeah, it says we're live.
Yeah, I see it. We're live. I see us. Hi.
Okay, that's good. I was like, no, I want that to be captured. That was so good. Um, yeah, so if you're in misalignment, nothing is wrong. It's yeah. Hi, Rima. She said yes, it went out for a second. So
Oh,
I think you're I think that beautiful piece that you just said about. So basically, Ayleen was saying that if you feel like you're in misalignment, nothing's wrong, that it's actually just information and that you can use that information to propel you forward into life. And I think you can get, the proper support. This is where it can be helpful to hire a coach or to get into some sort of not necessarily entrepreneurship group, but like work group that's really creative or some place to support you in the change. Because what happens if you're misaligned and then you stay there is you start to feel stuck. And then
yeah.
feeling stuck, that's a drag. And then it gets harder and harder and harder to get out of it because your energy drops, 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 drops.
Yes, that is it. That's it, Amanda. It's there's nothing wrong with being in misalignment, but where things do start to take a turn for the worse is when you stay there, when you don't shift that energy, when you don't move out of it, or because we are human beings and human beings love growth. That's kind of just part and parcel with being a human being, right? Growth is a big part of what keeps us feeling alive. And yeah, that's for me, that's one of my biggest values. I have like three major values I've been living out throughout my career, and growth is one of them. So when that misalignment does come up, it's just like you said, information. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm even thinking, as feminine essence beings, feminine beings love to flow into many forms.
Mm.
So expressing different flavors is part of the existence of being a feminine being. And I'm even thinking of my career trajectory of like, I started in the full-time job and then I launched this huge nonprofit in my city and worked with over 150 artists of different disciplines. And we booked performing arts shows all over the city. And it was so amazing. And I did that. And then I went to bodywork school. And then, it's like I went from so many different places, but all these pieces I bring with me to my business now. And I wasn't sure exactly what I was doing at the time of these transitions. I could have never anticipated what I offer now, ever. But I was following those nudges of like, this feels out of alignment. I need to follow what feels more delicious. And lo
Mm.
and behold, here I am, and I'm offering my dream work. And who knows, maybe I'll flow into something different. I'm not attached to just doing this for the rest of my life because I think this is going to build into whatever the next path is for me.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. Oh my God. As you were speaking, and it reminded me of Steve Jobs. There's a quote that he said, I believe he was giving a commencement speech at a graduation, at a, not a commencement speech. He was giving a speech at a graduation ceremony. And one thing he said was that you can't connect. I don't remember word for word, but he said you can only connect the dots looking back. You can't make those connections when you're looking forward. You don't know how it's going to unfold. And it also reminds me of another quote. I was at this Catholic conference a year-ish ago, and they said that life is like tapestry. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yep.
Tapestry. So, the picture in the front looks very beautiful, but if you turn it around, like people don't realize all of the intricacies that go into it and what can look like uncoordinated parts are actually pieces of a puzzle, and they all fit together eventually, but you can't see that while you're in it. You can see it very clearly now, like you said, seeing how all those parts of your work have really come together to create such a beautiful um offering, such sacred service. So yeah.
And it's even funny, one of my most recent clients is a performing artist. So it's almost full circle. She comes and, I'm starting to work with her and her, she wants to avoid cycles of burnout, but being a performing artist, it's a very different set of skills to step onto stage over and over again. It's a different embodiment. But I know how to work with her because I worked with performing artists for years.
Mm.
And, feminine energy isn't linear. it's cyclical. It's a mosaic. It is in this moment and it kind of comes together in one piece. So it's kind of what you're saying about this tapestry. It's woven. So if you're tuning in and you're feeling like, I don't know what I'm doing, that's okay. Do any of us really? I mean, sometimes we feel like we do, but then life comes and we're like, actually, is this what I want? Because we're always growing. We're growing, morphing, evolving human beings. And so our environments need to shift along with us. And yeah, I think to work in the energy of transitions is a very powerful place to work.
Mm.
Um, I want to hit on, before we get into legacy, because I do want to get into legacy for the majority of this. You are a human design projector, and I have a lot of projectors who follow my channel and a lot of projectors who work with me. And it's because we are struggling to manage our energy in a world that demands the energy reservoirs of a generator or manifesting generator. I'm curious, in this career path that you've had working for these companies that are really well known, how have you been able to manage your energy as a human design projector, or have you? Like, have you hit burnout? What are some things that you've done to pace yourself?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. It's so funny because I hit burnout when I was in college.
Mhm.
So that last semester of college, I was completely burnt out. That was actually the semester I wanted to learn to code, and I had several people offer opportunities for me to code some things for them and for me to learn, like zero pressure, just here's something I want you to do, create it. I turned down both of those opportunities because I was burnt out. And it was very sad because it's like I want to learn a code, I want to pick up this skill, but I'm tired. So that definitely came up for me. And what I learned from that experience is that I can't allow myself to get to that point. So you start to kind of learn the signs that you are about to burn out. And that's where I really just prioritized my, like, really taking time to just rest and not get to the point where you're putting so much, stacking so many bricks on top of yourself where it just becomes so hard to balance that they just topple over. So there's been moments and pockets of time in my life where it's been easy to manage my energy, or like to manage all of the things that I wanted to do. But then there were times where it was really difficult. And the key differentiator between those two things is, like we spoke about earlier, misalignment. So the moments where I was in misalignment, it was really difficult to balance everything that I was doing and manage my energy. Whereas where I was in alignment, I had an overflow of energy because I was following curiosity, I was following adventure, I was following excitement, inspired action. But um, yeah, like for example, with the coding boot camp, I had a lot of energy, but it was a very intense thing it was pretty much from morning to night. But I was able to do it and have a lot of energy because it was something that I was really passionate about, excited about. But then once it came to the point where software engineering was no longer for me, it's like, okay, where's my energy? It's gone. It's nowhere to be found. So yeah, that's when you really sometimes need support. So I know that's around the time you and I started working together, where it's like, okay, I want to move in this direction, but I'm doing this. I need some support here. So for me, that's really what it comes down to. Knowing the signs, knowing yourself first and foremost, having the self-awareness of what you know yourself to be, like how much energy you know yourself to have in certain moments, and then being able to identify that something is up,
Mhm.
something needs to change, and then having the wherewithal within you to really say, okay, I'm going to make that change. I'm
Yeah.
going to seek out the spaces that I need to be in order to make that change. I'm going to seek out the experts um, to help me make that change. And I'm going to seek out the courage within myself to do that. So when it comes to being a projector and having energy, I think we can find a lot of energy when we are doing things that are coming from our soul, coming from our hearts, coming from our intuition and our gut, and that God is leading us towards.
Yeah. I say this a lot in my videos for human design projectors that this strategy of only working 3 hours a day, I actually like to interject that with outputting energy. And I think I would even add outputting misaligned energy, even for 3 hours a day. Like that's all we've got to be misaligned. I'm just adding this now. I've never said this, but I think that that's like an additional, and there's shades and flavors to this because sometimes for me, like replying to emails feels like for my business feels like it takes energy, but it's not misaligned.
Hmm.
But if something's misaligned, it's going to take that 3 hours of output. It's going to really, really drain you. So your strategy is not like, oh, go home and recharge with yoga and take a long bath. Your strategy is get out of your situation, like change it. I
Hmm.
love that. It's like a massive overhaul to set up a life for yourself where you feel more aligned and more nourished by your work, that you are being seen by your work, which is also a big thing for projectors to be witnessed and seen in their genius and to be
Hmm.
invited in. And
Yeah.
so if you start getting that dull energy and you stop being seen, it's just this downward trodden spiral of just like, so do something. If you're tuning into this and you feel like this is you, make a move. You just got to do it, even if you don't have energy.
Yeah. And it's so true. And it's so interesting too, because there are times where like I literally can't make a move. And I don't know if maybe you've experienced this, but I know for sure we've spoken a little bit about it. But um there are times where you really just don't have energy. How am I supposed to do this thing that I want to do? And what I've come to realize is that when you start in your mind, like you play around with the idea of the thing that you need to do in your mind. So, for example, I wish I could show you because I'm like just so in love with this thing that I just created. Should I show you? Let me see if I can. Let's see. Oh no, I won't be able to show you. It's okay. But so what I've noticed is when you play around with the idea of the thing that you want to do in your mind, like, okay, I need to get up and let's say clean my closet. If I start cleaning my closet in my head
Yeah.
and saying, okay, this corner is going to be for this thing, this corner is going to be for that thing, then it becomes a lot easier because there comes a moment once you're doing that little game in your head that you get this hit of inspiration that you're like, oh my God, wait, let me move it right now because I want to see what it looks like. So that's a little hack for anyone
Right.
who's watching. Like if you feel like you literally are stuck and you can't move, play with it in your mind and see how that hit of inspiration really comes to you and you come alive and you find energy by doing that.
And neurologically, we can think of our brain is wired as a result of everything that we've experienced up until now, of our environment right now, like after what we've learned, the interactions we've had. And so if you need to do something new and you start to visualize it, you're starting to make new neural connections in your brain so that when you go do the thing, it's a little bit easier. You get over that hump of like, oh, because starting to wire new connections and learn new things, it has a little bit of grit to it. It's not, yes, it can be easeful and fluid, but also it's okay if there's a little bit of a rub to learn a new thing.
Mm.
But if you or do a new thing or do something you don't want to do, but you start to visualize it, you're starting to lay the neural pathways down to actually go do it. So that's a great hack. I love that hack. So good. Let's talk about legacy. I'm so excited to talk about legacy. And I looked up the definition. I believe it was, I'm gonna look it up one more time. It's like what you pass down to your ancestors. Okay. Something handed down from an ancestor or a predecessor or from the past, like a legacy of something, a heritage. And then the first definition is money or property given to another by will. But I like this something handed down from an ancestor or a predecessor from the past. And this is the definition I want us to kind of like lean into. How do you describe legacy when you talk about it?
Yeah. So for me, legacy is It's very interesting because when I think of legacy, I think of people who have passed on, and we now can see very clearly what the legacy is that they have left behind. So what about for us, people who are in the process of living our lives and we haven't yet fully lived our lives out? So to me, the really useful way to use this legacy is to envision what you would want your legacy to be. So it's more of a concept of the legacy that you would desire rather than your actual legacy, because you probably will have little knowledge of what your legacy actually ends up being.
Interesting.
So yeah, I like to use legacy in regards to what do I want to leave behind for my children? What do I want to leave behind for my clients? What do I want to leave behind as my story? So this becomes very useful for me, and I'd love to leave this with your audience as well. As you are living your life, as you are making decisions, as you are stuck between two choices or that fork in the road, what do you want your story to be? Which decision will lead you closer to the story you want to tell, or for others to tell about your life? Because you are building your legacy literally every second, with every decision, with every thought, with every word, with every interaction, because this is literally what you're leaving behind, what you have said to others, what you have made others feel, what you have created, what you have decided, the life that you have created, and all of the beautiful things that are around you. So that's how I like to use legacy, as a North Star. So to me, that's the nuance between your actual legacy once you are gone, and once there's zero changes you can make to that, versus creating your legacy as you live your life.
When I hear the word legacy, it feels so robust. It feels so deep. We often create something for us. We're like, I want to create this life for myself to have this experience. But legacy is this consideration of our community, of our, our descendants. It's so much bigger than our human experience now. And that is so rich. I also love to to start to consider it at a younger age. Like when I think of legacy, sometimes I'm like, oh, that's something you can think of in your later years. But you're saying build it now, build that robustness now, build that, you know, go deep now. Think of this wide scope of the presence that you hold in the world now.
Yeah.
And and this distinction too, I never thought of this, of like, you don't know how you're going to be received once you've passed. That's actually out of your control. And so building a life according to your desires, and then of course it's that surrender, that's the creative process of letting go, but still considering it with every moment, how you are creating a life, not just for you, but for the world around you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's this intentionality with how you want to be received by others, how you want your story to be told by others.
Yes.
And of course, that includes your children. You just had a beautiful, beautiful baby. So yeah, that's beautiful. And for those who don't have children, either yet or just don't have children, then those are your friends, your family, your parents, your clients. If you're on YouTube or you're a creator on YouTube, all of the lives that you've changed, and you don't know what that trickle effect will be. If you change one person's life, and then the network effect of all of the lives that they change, how beautiful is that? It's like a web
Oh,
of just impact.
tapestry, mosaic.
Yeah.
If you're tuning in now, I would love to hear if you've thought of what you want your legacy to be. I think that would be really interesting to share. Please give this video a like. Thank you for tuning in. Feel free to say hi. I I was thinking, I've never thought of this in such it's different now that I have a baby. Like I think of it's a direct legacy. I'm like, what do I want my son to receive from me as he grows old? And one thing that's coming up for me right now is being in this postpartum portal. I feel, and this is neurological too, your nervous system opens up in a certain way. There's three potent periods of life. So it's in infancy, your nervous system's really open. It's in their teenage years, and then it's in matrescence or putrescence when you become a parent. And I can feel that in my body. And I'm having all sorts of memories flow through, and I'm very connected to my body. So people might not be attuned with this in their own world, but this has been my experience of infancy, of even my experience being born, and things that may have been passed down to me from my ancestors. That's not mine. And very nervous system based, very time to shift, time to heal. So I've been doing a lot of inner work, a lot of healing. And this potent period of time between 0 and 3 years of my child's life is an opportunity for both of us to shift and heal our ancestral lineage. So
Mm.
I can reparent because my nervous system's so open, and in turn shift patterns for him and hit the line that will continue through him. And so the legacy that I'm passing on to my baby and is one of nervous system regulation when I don't feel like that was necessarily passed down. And this is like my work, right? This is like what I do, but it hit me at a whole new level being postpartum and being a new mother. And that's something that I really feel strongly about, is like shifting patterns into a more healed and whole way. And then what I thought about for my legacy through my business, because my business is its own form of baby. Like I feel like it's it's like a toddler to kid. It's like in its kid phase probably. But I feel like through that soothing others' nervous systems. So all of my clients, I offer nervous system education, and that trickles into their child's lives. And
Mm.
then
Yeah.
heart activations of connecting people to their hearts and to their, soul lined paths. And that is a ripple effect. And that legacy of like, oh, I worked with Amanda during this really potent time of my life. And I learned how to care for myself. And because of that, I'm able to be in this relationship in an easier way. Or I was able to connect to my heart and make this really important change in my career at this time because I worked with Amanda at this time. So
Yeah.
these are examples of legacies that I was brainstorming when I was thinking of this conversation. And I don't know, have you considered kind of your legacy, or would you want to share it with us?
Yeah, I do want to start by saying there were many times while I was working with you that I don't know many times, but maybe I shared with you a few times where I said there should be like required premarital work. The work
Yeah.
that you do should be like required training prior to getting into a marriage, just because yeah, like you just said, it's so beautiful that you're offering these services that allow people to have better relationships with others and with themselves. And that's something that will ripple onto the lives that they touch. As for me with my legacy, so when I think about, and this has been literally for the past like 10 years, when I envision myself as the most, how do I say, cultivated or developed version of myself, like the Ayleen that I still envision till this day and that I'm slowly but surely becoming, I always envision myself speaking, which on stage, like literally what we're doing right now, although we're not on a physical stage, it's like a metaphoric stage. This has literally been the thing that I've always envisioned myself doing, which is very strange for someone who is and has always been and continues to be a very quiet and reserved person. Like whoever sees me on YouTube might not know this, but anyone who's like spent time with me would know that I am probably the quietest person in the group. And that's very interesting to me. But my legacy is being able to live out loud. So I live my life according to those hits of inspiration, according to that curiosity, according to those three values of growth, adventure, and kindness, and share that with others. So I am living my life and then sharing it. It's funny, when I first got onto Twitter and I was trying to figure out a Twitter handle, like the name, the username that we use, the only thing that came to me was live out loud, kind of
Hmm.
like a twist to laugh out loud. But live out loud really was just born out of me trying to figure out what my Twitter handle would be. And I'm like, wait, but live out loud, I don't speak a lot, so I'm not doing anything. Um, how am I living out loud? But it's really what I just described, living my life in a way that feels very much aligned with who I want to be and who I am at my core, and then sharing that with others. So to me, what that turns out to be, we will see. But for now, at least the feedback that I hear from others, like whenever someone says, oh, that's interesting, whenever someone says, I've never thought about it that way, or whenever someone says, Ayleen, that was so helpful, can you say that again? To me, that's me literally creating my legacy,
I love
shifting
it.
the way people see the world, shifting the way people see themselves, shifting the way people see life and God sometimes.
So beautiful. Do you think that masculine energy or masculine legacy is different than feminine legacy in like energetic form? Often feminine essence, feminine energy lives in female bodies. So, do you think that women in general pass down a different legacy than men?
Yeah, so I definitely do think that they do, but by nature, just because as, you know, feminine energy and masculine energy, given that they are well, you may know this better than I do, how to describe the differences between like the feminine and the masculine. But when I think of feminine and masculine, I think of polarity, which to me means two separate poles, opposite each other. And so just by that very fact, they are passing on different legacies, in my
Yeah.
opinion. But of course, we are people that have both feminine and masculine energy within us to differing degrees, right? So some might have more feminine energy, some might have more masculine energy. And based on that, the legacy might be different. So when you think of the characteristics of someone who is feminine versus the characteristics of someone who is masculine, you can kind of already tell, already see the kind of potential legacy or the flavor of legacy that they might have. So when I think about, let's say, my mom and my mom has passed down this very grounded, very loving, very calm legacy, nurturing. Like there's that nurturing element to my mom. Whereas my dad has passed on this like very action based, fire, passion, active energy that is more about going out into the world, getting things done. So I would say, yes, they are leaving behind different legacies, but in a way, I find that so beautiful because they complement each other. That's one thing I love about masculine and feminine, that they really truly do complement each other. But I would be curious because I know like a lot of your work is based on femininity and all of that. I would be super, super, super curious to hear like what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I'm still integrating some of this stuff because it's beautiful to think of like not how it expresses just in this moment, but how it's left behind. And in
Mm,
terms of my family, I mean, I'm the feminine essence being in my marriage. So I
mm,
love expressing feminine energy. And when thinking of how that's being passed down, what my legacy is to my son, if I have more children, I want this legacy to have this nourishing, warm, cozy.
mm,
Like I want to pass down this legacy of nourishment to my children. I want them to look back and say, oh, when mama cooked, it
mm,
just fed me from the inside out. Or when mom rocked me to sleep and sang me a lullaby. Like I want these warm moments, these nourishing moments to be remembered by my children. And then when I think of my husband's legacy, like he is just really driven. Oh my gosh. And it's not that I'm not driven, but
mm,
he holds this structure for our family and he's so he pushes, like he in a way that's helpful. Like he pushes energy forward. He's very motivating. And so his legacy being that of like we're in a challenge right now, push through, persevere. And
Mm,
I know that that legacy was passed down to him as well. So that's a really good example, I think, of like this feminine warmth, this feminine desire to nourish, especially like as a mother, and then more of this masculine desire to provide and persevere and push and create challenges. I also think of not create challenges, not create challenges, persevere through challenges. Think of a feminine legacy of beauty. Like
mm,
I'm really intrigued by this concept of beauty. And this is why I put radiance, like your radiant feminine legacy, because I think that there is a legacy of beauty. And I think beauty is such a gorgeous offering to leave to the world when the world can feel so dense and heavy and disorganized, because beauty is really this emulation of harmony and of love. Love creates harmonic structures, harmonic physical form, harmonic presence. And so when that's expressed through a being, it's like, that is a beautiful being. And
mm.
feminine energy is beautiful. And so thinking of like, what's my legacy of beauty? Like, I think that that's a really interesting concept too, like
Yeah,
providing beauty to the world. So,
right. Oh, that makes me think of flowers.
yes. Yes.
This makes
Yeah.
me want to go pick a flower.
Yes. I mean, and when I think of maybe more like celebrities or people who are more well known, and you can see their trajectory, and it's like they left this like legacy of beauty too. It's like their presence is beautiful, eloquent, graceful. They are physically beautiful because of this presence. It's like there's a legacy there too. That's not just about what you do, but it's about who you are. And
Yeah,
just looking at pictures or watching videos of you is like, wow, your legacy is that of emulating love and harmony.
right. And the beauty that inspires in others. Like
Yes.
when I'm walking down the street and I see someone just look very beautiful, whether that's like their physical appearance or their energy, their aura, that inspires me to do a little more of that.
Yes.
I want a little bit of that. Let me add that to my
Exactly.
feminine toolkit or something.
So let's talk about radiance. I mean, I like to talk about radiance from terms of the heart, and your on your course, on your website, you talk about heart legacy specifically, not just legacy, but heart legacy. What does the heart mean to you?
Yeah. So the heart, it's very interesting because and it's funny, like one of the first things you said to me when I first started working with you was like you get this very heart you get heart energy from me, which is interesting, and it made me kind of reflect back looking at my journals and seeing how much I talk about the heart, not knowing, like it wasn't like a conscious thing. It was just a word that I used very frequently. Like I looked at my birthmark removal video, and what I said in there was, I'm going to take you guys on a journey that is very near and dear to my heart. Like, okay, that's very interesting that it's something that I have spoken about very naturally, I guess. And to me, what the heart really is this feels really good to me when I think about it. To me, it is the way that God speaks to me.
Mm,
So when I think about my heart, I think about God talking to me through some part of my body, and that his chosen organ to speak to me through is the heart. And I would imagine it's the same for many people, where you just I don't know, I even think about terminology, everyday terminology, where you think about the heart of the matter, or um all of this terminology that includes the word heart. It's always talking about like the core of something. So when I think about the heart, when I think about my heart, when I think about the heart of others, I think about the core of who they are. And to me, the core of who someone is what they are being given and granted by the divine, what they
mm,
are being given and granted by this higher power, who they are. Like the heart and the soul, I feel like they're partners. And it's like the soul covering the heart. and the heart expressing the soul.
Mm.
So that's what I think about. So when I think about heart legacy, and this really came up like at the end of us working together, where it's like, okay, legacy was a word that really was exciting based on like that sentence that I had. And then when I shared that with like one of my marketing professors, he was like, wait, stop right there. That word that you used, heart, give me more of that. I don't know if you remember, I mentioned that a little bit. Like I met with my marketing professor to show him the website that I was creating. And then he was like, I want more of that. And then I'm like, okay, so where would I fit that? And I'm like, oh, heart legacy. It makes sense because your legacy, if you are in a state of alignment, if you are living your life with intentionality, with who you want to be, the purpose you want to live out, the purpose the divine put within you, if the divine is speaking to me through my heart, then the legacy that I am creating is being created through my heart, because I'm not just creating my legacy on my own. It's a partnership with God. It's a partnership with the divine. It's, people use the word co-creation, and I truly do believe it's a co-creation. You were given these gifts, you were given these strengths, you were given these curiosities, you were given these qualities by the divine. And your job here is now to use them and express them in a way that feels great, in a way that really honors the divine for giving you those gifts, for giving you everything. So that's what heart legacy means to me. It's like a combination of God speaking to me as I create that legacy for myself.
I could so feel your heart when you just shared that. You were speaking from your heart. It's a very specific vibration, like speaking from your heart. And I mean, this is one thing that I work on with my clients. It's a whole module of heart connection, but the Heart Math Institute has studied the human heart, and it has its own intelligence, its own nervous system. It is really intricately connected to the brain, like signaling up to the brain. So there's a lot of wisdom to this, in addition to spiritual texts of all different traditions referring to the heart as the way to God in their own way, in their own language. This is why you say things, I love you with my whole heart, I'm heartbroken. Like there's a prayer, I can't remember what it's passed down from, but where you like literally drop your head and you like look to the heart, like you gaze at the heart with your eyes. So there's so much to this heart connection. And the Heart Math Institute says the 3 ways to really link into a state of heart coherence in your body is 1, just notice the heart. So if you're tuning into this, you literally just drop your attention into your heart. You know that it's there. So now my consciousness is in my heart. And we often walk around with our consciousness in our heads. Mm-hmm. First of all, that's masculine energy, is being head-centered. It's very strategic, logical, problem solving. Heart centered is more feminine energy. Not that, masculine energy can't access the heart, but the feminine way of being is in the heart. It's more receptive, it's more relational. And then the second is to breathe into the heart. So literally feel your breath flowing in and out of the heart, expanding like a balloon. And then the third would be to generate a honest feeling of appreciation and gratitude from the heart. So if you're having a bad day, this is a really annoying prompt, but you could even just like start to be grateful for like, this glass of water. Like I have clean water in front of me, which is something that not everybody in this world has. Or I have a cozy bed down the hall and I feel safe and protected when I sleep. Like you could just start there with the basics too. And then you generate this feeling of like deep appreciation, and it flows throughout the whole body. And then you've got heart energy flowing. But it's really just like feel that your heart's there. Like that's like step 1. It doesn't have to be this big grand, you do a heart yoga flow, or like you just sense it. And I sense mine now that we're talking about it. And I sense my heart sensing your heart. And I can even sense the hearts of those tuning in live right now that are probably in their heart as well. Like it's a very beautiful practice.
Yeah, I love that. As you were talking, I'm like, okay, let me follow what you're saying, do it with you. So yeah, I can feel that we are more in our hearts now after that exercise. So I love that. Yeah, like breathing through your heart, that feels really good.
Yes. And when you think of radiating actually in my nervous system of a goddess course level 2 glow, there's a whole module about heart radiance, because when you connect into your heart and you generate that appreciation, there's an energy field around the body. And this is really where you start to glow from. You can see this, you can use equipment to measure this field. It extends 60 times the amplitude of the brain. But this heart energy will radiate around and will be really attractive. So it like attracts the things to us that are in alignment with it. And
Mm.
so when you think of that core of you, of God speaking through, of like generating these essences that are uniquely you, radiating that into the world, and as a feminine essence being, as a human design projector, letting the things flow to you from that magnetic field is a really powerful way to create legacy.
Yeah, I love that. That kind of reminds me, I was listening to Joe Dispenza, I believe it was maybe a year-ish ago. And one thing he mentioned was like the electromagnetic field.
Yeah.
And I don't know much about all of this stuff. So I'm kind of just like trying to remember what he said. I know this is 100% definitely your world. So I would be curious to hear what you think about this. But he was talking about thoughts creating things. And then he spoke about feeling and how that all connects, and talking about the electromagnetic field and how the thoughts would be the electro part of that word, and then the heart or feelings being the magnetic part of that word. So in combination, there's like this electromagnetic field that brings things to you. So I found that very, very, very interesting how literally in the word magnetic,
Yes.
connecting the heart and the feelings to that part of the word electromagnetic.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. You explained that beautifully. What you think is the electrical signal, that's the clarity. And that's also more of the masculine, because it's in the mind, it's in the brain. And then what you feel in the heart is the magnetism, is the feminine, and it's what draws it back to you. Because feminine energy is magnetic. It draws to. It's like the sperm and the egg. The egg doesn't go to the sperm goes to the egg draws it in, so that's at a very core level expression of these energies that flow through all different parts of nature. But the question here would be like, what are you radiating from your heart? Like
Mm.
what emotion or what beingness or what essences are you radiating so that you attract things back to you? And when thinking of creating your legacy, it's a really interesting thing, I think, to contemplate how it would feels too. Like, how would what do you want your legacy to feel like? And to practice that feeling in your heart, and then let those situations and those ideas flow to you from that feeling.
Yeah, I even think about it in terms of interpersonal relationships, because, like, one of the workshops that I'm currently in the process of creating, one of the key parts of it is like, what people are you surrounding yourself around?
Yeah.
And yes, it's the people you are surrounding yourself around, but it's also what you are giving to those people, and not giving in the active sense, but giving in terms of what's radiating out of you. So if your heart is full of love, you will naturally radiate love, especially if there's this overflow of love within you. You're naturally going to radiate that. And therefore, you are affecting the people that you are around as much as they are affecting you. And the way I like to view it, especially when we're thinking about legacy and what you're radiating from your heart while you are creating that legacy, if people are a key part of creating in your life, because this is an ecosystem of people. Even when you think about a company, it's made up of people are what's moving it forward. Of course, we have AI now and automation and all of that, but still people play a key role. So when you're radiating these certain beautiful energies,
Yeah.
then you are drawing people to you. You are drawing opportunities to you by extension. And when you are creating, there's more opportunity for partnership, because you're radiating something that people want more of.
Yes. I love that. And again, feminine energy, because we're talking about feminine legacy, is that of being relational. Whereas masculine energy is more of that of independence. Like I did this on my own stories.
Mm.
Feminine legacy is more about being in relationship and being in connection. So that's another beautiful way to kind of close this conversation about legacy. Oh, so strong, so powerful. Last question for you before I ask you how people get in touch with you is what is your wish for women in the world? Like if you had one wish for the female species, what would it be?
Mm. Yeah, this is a hard one. What is my wish? You know, my wish for the female species is to just keep being you.
Yeah.
Just keep being you. Get back to that natural state because we have such beautiful gifts to share with the world through our loving nature, through our nurturing nature, and really using that in partnership with the masculine, whether that's the masculine within yourself or the masculine out in the world. Um, because to me, that's where the beauty of life really comes in, having the combination of the feminine with the masculine. Like, what would the masculine be without the feminine? And what would the feminine be without the masculine? So, what I wish for women is to really lean into who you naturally are, regardless of what society says, regardless of the qualities that are promoted within society. Like, let's say extroversion, for example. I know that's a quality that's really promoted in like the Western world, and it makes sense. Um, but what happens if you are introverted? You know, it doesn't mean just because society is promoting this quality that the other quality is not just as beautiful, just as powerful, just as amazing. So I really want women to step into the power of who they naturally are at their core. That's
Yes.
what I wish for women.
Oh, in their hearts. And we know that lives in the heart. Big part of that. So if someone's tuning in is like, I need to work with Ayleen. I want to connect with her. Where can they find you? Where can they sign up to work with you? What are you offering right now?
Yeah, so you can find me on my YouTube channel, Path Evolution Network. I believe it's Amanda has linked it. So that's the easiest way to find me. And there you can see all the things that I have going on. Take a peek at my videos. And if you feel a desire, a pull to work with me, I'm currently doing the CEO of You, which is a training that I've got coming up in a couple of weeks that I'm so excited about. That's what I wanted to show you because it was like
You
we were
should.
talking. I wanted to show you so badly. Oh my God. I was literally like channeling this earlier today. You were saying about, you know, when you feel really good, energy just flows through you. I don't know why I can't. Yeah, I just won't be able to do it on my computer, but I can show you maybe on my phone.
Oh, no,
I
here,
got,
I just changed it. You can share it.
oh, okay, nice. Okay, this is a sneak peek because this is supposed to only go out to the people on the wait list. But since you guys are here with Amanda and with me, you get to see this. Okay, this I can't believe I'm doing this right now. It feels really
Okay,
good.
you're doing this.
Um, So this is a image that I created, and this is what's going to be sent out to the people who joined the wait list for the CEO of You. Yeah,
Good.
it just feels so good. I literally made this morning, and it was purely channeled through me. I don't know how long it came. I don't know how long it took me to do this. I wasn't paying attention to time. I just knew I was in my flow. I was feeling good, and it just was born. So here it is.
Love it. The colors match the colors in their background. What's the program about?
So the CEO of You is really taking your power back. It is taking ownership, taking leadership in your life to create the life and the career that you desire, the life and the career that sets your soul on fire, and make a lot of money while doing it because we can be passionate, we can be excited, we can follow our curiosity and still make a lot of money. So that is what the workshop will be about. I'm super excited about it. And yeah, I can't wait. So
Well, thank you so much for being a guest on my channel. It's such an honor to have this conversation with you. I had so much fun. It went by so quickly. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. Again, please give this video a like, hit subscribe, hit the bell. I often go live, so then you'll be notified when I'm live again. and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much.